Hey, hey, hey! What my trip to the tropical fruit plantation in Kauai has to do with how to succeed in dating. So, really excited to dive into that today because, um, like I feel nature has actually a lot of wisdom for us, right? So if we're like, we don't really know what to do, the man pulled away, or you're attracting emotionally unavailable men to begin with, actions and words don't match. Like oftentimes you're like, gosh, I don't know where to go, right? I don't know what to do, or I tried over everything else. And what can be like really helpful is actually go into nature, right? Nature actually has a lot of wisdom for us. And so now, look, I've been doing this for like almost 10 years now, helping single women to attract the right man. And so, what I invite you to do is when you're sort of on the journey on wanting to manifest something, right? Right now, it's like wanting to manifest a man, just really understanding your own unique vibrational signature, right? In order to identify that, you have to understand, okay, so when did I actually gather wisdom, right, for myself? Like, when did I actually get insights that I actually implemented into my life? And so for us, we just recently went to Kauai. And, we actually met in Oahu, right? My husband lived in Maui. He took me there. And this trip was about Kauai. And we always wanted to go to the Garden Island. And so we actually ended up doing a tour at the tropical fruit plantation. And here's the thing. I'm always like listening, right? Like listening. I'm like, God, you're talking to me in a certain way, right? Like I want to know, like, what is it that you're exactly saying? What does it actually mean? And so I was like carefully listening when the guide was telling us about coconuts. So we got to the coconut tree and I was like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? Like we lived in Thailand and we had lots of coconuts and so on. So I was like, he probably doesn't have anything new to share here. But that was actually not true. What actually ended up happening is he told us that there's different times when you can harvest the coconut. Okay. So either you can harvest the coconut when the coconut is still green. Now, that is when you're very much interested in the coconut juice, right? In the coconut water, right? So if you like love coconut water, that's what you're mostly interested in, then you would look at harvesting the coconut early, right? However, if you're saying, you know what, I'm more interested in the coconut meat, right? You can do a lot of yummy things with the coconut meat. You can also ferment it, turn it into coconut pudding. I mean, just incredible things you can do with coconut meat. Now, if you're more interested in the coconut meat, you have to wait a little longer because you want to actually make sure that the meat absorbs more and more the water. And so then you harvest the coconut a little later, right? So you can actually have the coconut meat. And then with the coconut meat, you can make coconut oil. We learned that how to do that in Bali, and it's very interesting, right? So what the heck does that have to do with dating? I think for some, like in that moment, God was like just like came down from heaven and spoke to me, and what that has to do with it is we are comparing ourselves, like you're comparing yourself so much to other women. So a man says, I want to be a woman. I want to have a woman who's like living closer, or like I want to have a woman with those kind of qualities. And you don't happen to have those qualities, right? And so, what I want you to know is like there's men out there, they are actually looking for women that have more coconut water. You know what I mean? They're more interested in that. Maybe they had a lot of women who gave them lots of coconut meat, right? They're like really ready for some coconut water, you know? So they're really looking for those particular qualities. And then there are men who are constantly they're looking more for the coconut meat, right? So like of course that's not going to be a match for you if you're more like a green coconut, right? So you have two choices there, right? You can either say, I'm learning how to make myself right. I'm learning how to validate my qualities exactly what they are right now. So let's say maybe you feel like you're a little too much, or you have still insecurities inside of yourself, or things like that. And you basically have two choices, right? You can either say, I'm going to do the work, like to embrace my insecurities, right? Like I'm going to do the work to love myself for who I am, exactly who I am right now, right? For like my neediness, maybe my clinginess, maybe my superficialness, maybe my all my fears, whatever it is, Or you can say, God, I'm going to invest in myself, right? And let the coconut hang a little bit longer on the tree, right? Invest in myself until I create a little bit more coconut meat, right? So that's another piece too. It's like I want to shift a little bit more, right? I want to actually move away out of my insecure attachment style more into a secure attachment style, right? I actually want to feel more confident first before I meet the man. Now, the way how you do that, yeah, right? Like the coconut hangs longer on the tree, right? So it's like appreciates a little bit more in the density, right? Like in the meat aspect of the coconut. And the way how you do that in dating is you invest in yourself, right? You invest into coaching, into professional guidance, and to specific coaching that helps you to develop the qualities that you want to express more in your dating life, so that then you feel cherished and men pursue you and men are doing all the things that you would like them to do. Follow through, right? Stop pulling back, but actually words and actions match. So that is what the coconut has to teach us, okay? And so if you have any questions about that, you can pop that into the comments section as well. Happy to answer any questions. So then we move further along in the tropical fruit plantation paradise, okay? And by the way, so the piece is like, when it comes to like embracing all of who you are, I mean, that's actually my favorite, right? Because that's more likely what you're going to fall back to anyways, right? Because it's going to take a lot of conscious effort, But if you learn through coaching, how to actually own your neediness. When I worked with my coach back in the day, I actually learned, right, how to advocate for my needs. So that then when a man told me, that was back in 2010, that I'm a little too needy, or I'm too affectionate, or something along those lines, right? I could just say, oh, that's me. Yeah, that's right. Right? I could advocate for my needs because I had stabilized, I'd made myself already right for being needy, right? So I had already done the shadow work necessary to work around the judgments that I had of myself, right? So that then when somebody judged that inside of myself, it wasn't reflected or magnified inside of myself, but I was like, oh, that's your thing, buddy, right? And it's funny because when I said that to this particular man 13 years ago, he was like, oh, no, just kidding. Like, no, it's great. I love it. It's great. I love that you're affectionate. I love that you love hugs and kisses and things like that, okay? Then we went on in the fruit plantation journey, and we got to the apple banana tree, okay? And so that's a really interesting tree because it's actually not a tree, okay? So that's very interesting. It's actually considered an herb. So that is fascinating. So that's already like looking at like, oh, where or is it not what it appears to be, right? Oftentimes we go on dates and we judge the man who he appears to be. Now, in a particular case of the apple banana tree, it doesn't actually taste like apple, to be honest with you. It's called an apple banana tree, right? It's actually an herb because the apple banana tree doesn't even have roots. As a matter of fact, the apple banana tree doesn't even have a trunk. What the trunk consists of, the trunk in quotation marks, is layered leaves, okay? So that is very fascinating. So we have like this appearance, right? We're like, those are layered leaves, but then we make it mean, oh, this is a trunk because it reminds us of this. And so that can oftentimes happen when you go on dates and you're like, oh, he said this, right? He started speaking about himself. That reminds me of the profile of my ex, right? And let me know in the comment section if that resonates with you, right? Or throw me a like or love if that resonates with you. So you want to look at that piece, you know what I mean? It's like, okay. And then the second piece is that with the apple banana tree, it only gives fruit once, okay? What that means is like you have to actually cut it down to the ground in order for it to regrow and then deliver fruit again, right? So what that means is don't be afraid when you are dating, then you're in pruning season, You're cutting some people off in your life. Now, what I oftentimes say that it's actually much more conducive to most women that work with me to be exclusive versus inclusive, right? That it's actually time to cut off the energy vampires, right? The narcissists in their life, right? The people who are benefiting from them being rescued all the time, but that you actually put yourself in a position to rescue yourself, right? Stop rescuing everyone else, right? It's not helping anyone if you don't rescue yourself, because you're going to actually build resentment, right? You also don't want to be afraid when you prune your friends, you prune your family members, and you feel like, gosh, there's like nobody left. In every case that I've seen where pruning has taken place in their life, right? Pruning friends, pruning in their life, is that even more incredible opportunities, incredible people, right? Amazing friends were coming to the surface. We're finding them, no matter where they were in the world, right? Even if they moved somewhere else. So that's something to keep in mind for you. Like, don't be afraid of pruning season, okay? And then the other piece that you want to be aware of is what I learned from the allspice tree, okay? So now you might be like, wait a minute, allspice tree? Like, what are you talking about? So we're getting to this tree in a tropical fruit plantation. And the guide at the tropical fruit plantation is inviting us to take a sniff of the leaf, right, of the tree. And so we're doing that, and we're all like, oh, this smells like cardamom. Like, oh, this smells like peppermint. Oh, this smells like, you know what I mean? And so everyone is like coming up with sort of their own idea. Eucalyptus, right? And the guide continues on and says, well, nobody's wrong here. You're actually all right. And I'm just like, what is this, like a riddle? You know what I mean? Like, what is he talking about, right? Is he talking in metaphors? And he's like, well, this tree is called allspice. And I'm like, isn't that funny? Like, allspice, I never knew that was actually a tree. Like, I thought it was just like a mix of spices together. So let me know in the comment section if you thought the same thing when it comes to allspice, right? But then actually to find out, like, oh no, it's actually one tree. You know what I mean? One leaf, right? And what that actually means in dating is that you are much more complex than you think you are. Now, some people remember they were smelling the allspice tree and they were saying, oh, this smells like eucalyptus, right? So a certain kind of man will smell you like energetically or emotionally and connect with you in a certain way and create a certain dynamic with you. And this may be like the more playful dynamic, or maybe like a deeper, almost like philosophical dynamic, right? Or like a total power couple. Let's conquer, you know what I mean? Let's me and you against the world, you know what I mean? Let's create this incredible mission together. So you can have different dynamics with different men. So every man can bring out something different in you, right? Because then someone else was smelling this allspice tree and was saying, oh, it smells more like peppermint, right? So, oh, interesting. A different person got a different perception of the allspice tree. So you're like this allspice tree. And depending on what man smells you, energetically and emotionally speaking, right, they will actually see and draw out different qualities in you, right? And so what that means is like that oftentimes it's about you surrounding yourself with the men that you want, who you want certain things to be drawn out of, right? To know it's not you, but it's about the dynamic you have with a man, you know? So in our program, the women actually do have like a whole dating tracking sheet. And in that dating tracking sheet, they actually get to analyze what archetype, we call it archetype, they were in a date, and then what archetype did they draw out of the man, right? And then what dynamic did they create together, right? And how was that presenting itself? How did they know that they had this dynamic, right? What's that specifically look like? And so, right, so you get to really experience, like, what do I want to be? You know what I mean? What do I want to be? Who do I want? Right. And then the beautiful thing is that it's going to be a unique cocktail, right? So when you date, you actually want to, create almost like a living vision for yourself, right? So what that means is like you go on a date and you go shopping for attributes. So instead of like saying, oh, I love Peter's humor, and so therefore Peter needs to be the one, right? So I'm just going to project the other qualities onto him and fill in the blanks. No, you just say, I love Peter's humor. Great, right? So put humor on your living vision, right? Your living vision board, right? And then write in brackets Peter, right? And then you have someone else who intellectually stimulates you, right? And then you write maybe in brackets, and whatever, Harry, it's intellectually stimulating, and so on, right? So you're going shopping for attributes. So you're really creating your own allspice man. You know what I mean? So to say, I mean, really, you do. You know what I mean? Okay, B, you just said, well, dating multiple men, how do we narrow down which guy we want? A few of them are very high value, high quality, and all are consistent. I don't know which one I want. Yeah, B. And so this is like, I really recommend doing this tracking sheet that I talked about, right? And just really going, like seeing like what the man draws out of you and what dynamic you have with them, and then also like, of course, how you feel with that particular man. You know what I mean? And just really feeling out like, I really want to, it's interesting when you watch like something like The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, right? I think it becomes very apparent because they say, of course, whatever, Michelle is a great match, and whatever, Raven is a great match too. You know what I mean? But who is like really, what am I really looking for? What's the qualities for like a long-term marriage, right? Like, like what do I really want like the dad of my kids to be like, right? Like when I think about building a home together, you know what I mean? Like who do I really want to come home to? You know what I mean? Things like that. Who can I be around with 24/7? With my husband, I'm not even kidding you. I could have like the best time, but honestly, my favorite is like my husband's my favorite energy. Like when I come home, I'm so happy to be with my husband. I could be with my husband. I could be my husband's energy like 24/7, right? But there's no other energy I can be in 24/7. You know what I mean? Not even with my best friends, right? After a while, I'm just like, okay, I need some space, But with my husband, I'm just like, I love his energy. So that's another piece too for you, B, is actually understanding, and this is something I normally don't share, but do you feel there is space, or do you have already a lot of spaciousness inside of yourself? So you want somebody who's more, has a lot of like processes going on inside of himself, maybe ask a lot of questions, has a lot of thinking going on, has a lot of, like processes, the best way of saying it. Or are you the one who has a lot of processes going on, and you really need somebody who's a little more spacious, right? Somebody who can help you break down the processes, right? Or can help you like bring a little bit more space, a little bit more breathing room to yourself, like to your nervous system, because you're already, you know what I mean? And maybe you realize, well, I'm dating some guys where it's like we're both having a lot of processes, right? So it's kind of like, whoa, that's gonna blow a fuse. This could be like a little too much, right? So you actually want to be like aware of like the energetic alignment between the two of you, right? And another thing I also always love to talk about is actually like wound compatibility, right? So what people normally fall into when they're like, oh my God, I love this guy, right? Like they always talk about like, we have like the same childhood, and we're both orphans, or we both had like emotionally unavailable parents. I would really say like, I would proceed with caution. And the reason why is like, yes, you feel like, wow, we have all this in common, but we really call it a trauma bond. And it actually becomes very codependent and dysfunctional because when there is an argument, so when there is a breakdown, when there is a misunderstanding, right? When there is like a triggering of somebody else's nervous system, if you guys have the same wound, if you guys have like the same, like you're both victims of domestic violence, right? Or you're both, like I said, you're both orphans, you're both have emotionally unavailable parents or whatever it is, right? So you're both an anxious attachment style, whatever the case may be, then they, in the moment of breakdown, in the moment of trigger, there's not going to be enough resource. In other words, you will just react to each other, right? And you will hurt each other because you want to protect yourselves in that moment. You're not able to step back. However, when you have what I call complementary wounds, so let's say someone has a wound, let's say they have like a birth wound, like something, something go right with the birth, so they don't feel safe in their body. And your partner feels totally safe in his body, let's say, but maybe they had like a parent where the parent was a little controlling, right? So the parent was like loving, but it was controlled, so they don't have the choice. That was always hard for them to have a choice, right? And you're like, oh, choices are choices all day long because I was neglected my whole life, and so you have compatible wounds in that moment, right? So what that means, when there's a breakdown and someone else doesn't feel safe, like let's say you don't feel safe in your body in that moment, right? And you want to just leave your body, then your partner, because he doesn't have the same wound, is not going to react, right? Your partner is actually realizing what's happening because he got his needs met when he was a little child, right? He was, like he got celebrated on his birthdays. He got the attention. So he can give you the attention in that moment. He's not going to be triggered in that moment, right? He can actually give you perspective. Now, the same is for you, right? Let's say, your partner's encountering a moment where he feels like, oh, I don't have choice or I don't have freedom, right? And then you can actually say, with this ring, I set you free, right? With my husband, I could actually tell my husband, like, with this ring, I set you free. Because for me, it wasn't about like taking his freedom away or like choice, right? Because I had endless choice, but he didn't, you know what I mean? And so I'm like, yeah, babe, like, what do you want to do? You know what I mean? Like, you just, you know what I mean? Have all the choice in the world, take all the freedom, do your recharge retreat, do all the things, right? Because I have that piece handled. Like, this is not my theme. And so that's really cool. When you have like compatible wounds, then what's your partner's theme is not your theme, which is really, really great, because that means you can actually model to them, you can mirror to them how to healthfully relate to it. You know what I mean? So for example, to be totally transparent, so one of my themes is definitely like asking for my needs, or like being present to my needs. Obviously over the years I've gotten better, right? Like just really realizing like what I really need in any given moment, and not getting lost in somebody else's, let's say, nervous system or what they want or their agendas or whatever, right? And so my husband, he walks around, he's like always connect to what he needs. You know what I mean? And it's so great. So you, like, your partner becomes your environment, right? And environment trumps willpower. So you want to be very, very, very mindful who you're going to end up with, because they become your environment. So you want to have a partner who is a healthy environment, right? Who is like a healthy mirror to you. So what do you want to have mirrored back to you on a consistent basis? So my husband would walk around and he's like, I'm very worthy. Who wants to give to me next? I'm just 5-star restaurant. And it's funny, B, because, he would like say, he would like win, like he would get like free food. Somebody would like make extra food accidentally at restaurants. I'm not even kidding you. They're like, oh, we don't know what we made that for, but do you want it? And it's like a brand new meal. You know what I mean? And that happens like all the time at Starbucks. They made the wrong drink. They're like, hey, what do you want that other drink in addition to that? And my husband, he constantly wins when there's like raffles. So don't even enter the raffle. If my husband participates, he's gonna win, right? Because he has this natural unconscious expectation. That's like something to always ask ourselves too. Is like, what's your unconscious expectation, right? And his unconscious expectation is, oh, who wants to give to me next? You know what I mean? Like, who has my next meal? You know what I mean? Who has my next dessert? Who has my next prize? And in this particular case, I don't know, it's always food be, but it was actually like a gift card to like a whatever 5-star restaurant. You know what I mean? And then like a week or two later, we we had like some competition with friends, and they also were giving food gift cards away. And it was so funny because Brody won both competitions. And so you got all the, so it's funny, so people have like certain themes, right? So it's like so great for me to see this on a regular basis, for him to be so connected to what he wants and then actually create it for himself, right? So those are some things that I would look out for. Let me know in the comment section if that was helpful to you at all, B. Yeah, of course, you're dating men who are high value and high quality, but there's so many more distinctions for you to make, right? Which, of course, the allspice tree can teach you. All right, ladies, if you want to know more about like how to make the distinctions necessary, how to know who's the right man for me, right? Women who come to me, they usually don't struggle attracting men. It's more about like saying yes to the right man and not sabotaging it, not having any anxious attachment style patterns coming up, right? Staying connected to your needs in the presence of a really powerful man, a really powerful person, right? Oftentimes, sometimes even I had some women who came to me just this week who ended up even dating like a celebrity, right? So even more this challenge, right? To really stay connected to your needs in the presence of somebody very powerful, somebody really influential, somebody who has a big platform, and so on, right? Like putting yourself on an equal pedestal as opposed to having him on a pedestal. All right, so I hope that was helpful for you. If you want to learn more, where are you standing on all of this? And if you could, benefit from support from me, then take my free Magnetize Your Man quiz, mymquiz.com, mymquiz.com. I'm going to also pop it into the respective comment sections because this is going to be posted here right now on YouTube. Also my Facebook group, my Facebook page. So either way, we're going to post it in there as well. And other than that, would love to hear any feedback that you have, ladies. All I can say is, if you just really work this, it's really going to work. We just had one woman who just graduated, met her guy after 3 weeks within working with me. We had somebody else, wonderful, graduate last year. She got married a couple weeks ago, proposed last year in Positano, and by really the man of her dreams, right? Because she had men around her, no problem, But it was really about like the right man. The right man actually like ended up creating this dream proposal for her, right? Another wonderful woman, Iman, and I shared her in the story as well. And she's on my website. Met her guy after 2 months, got engaged within 2 months. So if you're like just on this journey, like 2023, that's my year. Let's go. Let's rock and roll. Let's do it. mymquiz.com is your address or your ticket, so to say, to your happily ever after. All right, lots of love. Mwah, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.